Well, we did it again, and I am stoked. You will feel the general stokedness about me because the vibe is nothing but hot right now. We dropped another episode of Yonder Radio, the radio show free to radio stations around the country and to you at yonderradio.com. Okay, so today, this is Beyond the Yonder. From the latest episode, I bring you the long-form interview with Willie Hiatt. He's a professor at Long Island University. He actually teaches Latin American history, but today he's bringing American history as his dad was part of the Tobacco League. It's a little-known story about a Southern baseball league from 1949 to about 1955 that, well, the world interrupted with changes in the South and, more notably, the Korean War, where a lot of young men had to leave their towns and the league. But his father was a part of it. And not just a shortstop, a photographer. And the photos are incredible. And before we even started talking about baseball, we had to talk about what kind of camera was he using in the 40s and 50s.
The camera that he used was a Mercury 2. And it came out, I think, around 1946. And a photography blogger said that it was one of the coolest looking cameras ever made. It has dials and knobs and buttons and charts for numbers. The cost of it was like $85 at the time, which wasn't nothing, but it was marketed as a more economical consumer level camera. Much cheaper than the Leica, the much better Leica at the time, which probably would have been around $200. But you know, I joke that taking a good picture with a Mercury 2 required a little bit of skill, a lot of luck, and just pure divine intervention. It did not have a focusing mechanism. It had just a little glass opening, and so to get the proper focus, you had to just either measure the distance or step it off or just guess. And so Dad's batting average for in-focus photos was probably about the same as his batting average at the plate. I'm amazed that he got as many
Was
as
he about
many good
300?
photos.
Is it about 30%?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Okay, good. He's
And
doing
I'm
well,
amazed
well.
that he got as many good photos as he did. But if I could time travel, if I could go back in time, I would go back to the 1930s and give him the best Leica camera that I could with all the film that he could shoot and just say, preserve this and make sure that I get this in the future.
Well, he did a heck of a job with the Mercury 2. I'm looking at a photo of it right now, and it's pretty much saying, you're on your own there, pal.
That's correct. I mean, I had grown up surrounded by Tobacco League mythology and folklore. And so I was immersed in the stories that he told about the Tobacco League, and this was one of the most special periods of his life. But I was also surrounded by the material artifacts, the heavy hickory bats, the gnarled gloves. He had the original score books, right? These sort of mid-century trophies. I mean, they were gigantic, but just really cool trophies, and also the wool uniforms. And they had the zipper front, and they were just, they really belonged to an earlier era. My
Nothing
dad joked,
says suffocating in summer like a wool uniform in Kentucky.
That's correct. And my dad joked that the Willie Rockies were the hottest team in the Tobacco League.
Well, I have a lot of questions for you, Willie.
Right.
I was going to kick this off with the title. Willie Hiatt here writes an incredible story at dailyyonder.com, America's Pastime in small-town Kentucky, remembering the Tobacco League baseball tradition. And that's the thing I have a question about is how did your dad's team get called the Rockies? Because I'm in Colorado here. We have Rockies. It makes sense.
So, I don't know the answer to that. And I think that it is a fabulous nickname in a league with a lot of really cool nicknames. You had mentioned the Bear Wallow Bears, right?
Wow.
And, the Tobacco League missed an incredible merchandising opportunity. I mean, the teams were, the Wildy Rockies, the Waco Cardinals, County Clippers, Ravenna Ravens, Bear Wallow Bears. I mean, this was just, baseball really distilled into its purest and most innocent form. But I don't know, honestly, I don't know the story of the Willie Rockies. I know that Rockcastle County is a sort of, it's a very rocky county with a lot of limestone around. So it very well could have come from that. But I don't know if it's connected to anything necessarily in the community of Willie.
So what was the Tobacco League, and how do we not hear more about this?
So the Tobacco League was an amateur adult baseball league that ran in various iterations between 1949 and 1955 in central Kentucky. And there were teams in Madison, Fayette, Rockcastle, Clark, and Estill counties. And play was suspended in 1952 because of the interruption due to the Korean War. But amateur baseball was popular in Kentucky, in that region at the time. But in 1949, a group got together to form, to give the league a bit more formality. And so a constitution for the Tobacco League was written in early 1949. It established positions for a commissioner, an assistant commissioner, and a treasurer. The teams would play a 28-game schedule that largely paralleled the Burley tobacco season in Kentucky. A regular season and a playoff champion was crowned. Teams had to pay the onerous entry fee of $7, which covered the trophies and and some printing and advertising, the schedules.
Did the players get paid, or were they just paying?
No. This was just pure amateur baseball, and we talk about a farm system in baseball, right, as a developmental league, and kind of the minor leagues in player development. Well, in some ways, the Tobacco League was literally a farm system. Outside of Lexington, Richmond, and Berea, sort of the bigger towns and cities, there were a number of just wide places in the road that little communities that put together teams. And many of them literally played on farmland or in pastures. The field where the Willie Rockies played was owned by my grandfather, W.L. Hiatt, and it doubled as a pasture during the week, and then it became a buzzing baseball diamond on Sundays. Eventually, the team built bleachers, and as many as 200 people might attend. And so this really was. This really was a farm system. The players were, a lot of them were just country boys. Had been working on the farm, living in these rural areas. Once they put down a baseball on Sunday after the game, it's possible they didn't even pick up a baseball again through the week until the following Sunday. So there wasn't a lot of practice through the week. What's really interesting is that this wasn't AAA baseball. I joke that when in the Tobacco League, when players were swinging for the fences, it might have been barbed wire fences, right? Because this was sort of how rustic and quaint the ballparks were. My dad tells the story of on the Rockies home field there is a small creek that at that time ran parallel to the first base line. And when a foul ball would be hit and landed in the branch, they would get a kid to retrieve the ball, and they would throw the ball back into play and use it, waterlogged and
just fish that out of the river, son.
Just fish it out, and let's keep going.
Don't get bitten by anything. Just go get the ball.
Right.
That's amazing.
One of my favorite stories was a teammate of his named Rudolph Burdett. He went on to become a veterinarian in Rockcastle County. But it was during a road game, and Rudolph hit a fair ball down the third base line, and past third base it kicked into foul territory and rolled under a car. Car was parked just right down the sideline, and as the players on the other team were circling the car trying to find the ball, Rudolph circled the bases and scored. Whether it was called back as a ground rule double, I don't know. But
it seems like there's some technical issues here.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Whether that was Tobacco League baseball, right? And while this was the most exciting time of my father's life, I think, the 3 years that the Willie Rockies played in the league. He had a really good sense of humor about what the league was about, and he was really self-deprecating about the quirks in the league itself.
Well, he has a great eye. Here he is doubling as shortstop and photographer. And these photographs in the article, I mean, first there's the big one with the title, and there's these farm boys just kind of hunkered down, probably pretty exhausted. And there's this little boy holding the trophy that's bigger than him, and he looks like he just saw Babe Ruth. He is electrified. And in all these photos, it's like, move over, Kevin Costner. The people have already come to the field. Like, you could see that in this post-World War II, probably slightly depressed era in the South, this means a lot, and your dad captures that.
Yeah. So he grew up in Willie. It's a tiny little railroad community in Rockcastle County, about 10 miles south of Berea. And he had what he would consider an idyllic childhood. He was born in 1928. So, he's really coming of age during the 1930s, the Depression era, and then World War II. But he was one of 7 children, and Willie was a place where family, church, and community were central. He was related to half the population. He saw the other half of the population almost daily at his father's general store. There was just a real colorful cast of characters in Willie at this time. Dad once joked that continuity was sort of the norm in life. He said he as a child only remembered one pastor, Brother Peel. He only had one teacher, Ms. Barnes, who was from Berea College, and she taught in a one-room schoolhouse. And he said he only had one president. It was FDR, who served 4 terms.
Wow.
And so I think that he really relished his childhood, and I think probably later in life really romanticized growing up in the Depression. So when he bought his first camera in the late 1940s, and I suspect that he probably bought the camera as the Rockies were forming because he wanted to document this. I suspect that his impulse was to document life in Willie, but also to go back and recapture or retrieve a bit of his childhood. He would have been 20, 21, or 22 at this point, so he's sort of entering into adulthood. And I really think that he wanted to sort of document what he recalled of this very cherished childhood in the 1930s and early 1940s. He had a good photographic eye, but I would argue that he was more of a documentarian with a really good sense of the moment than he was an artist with the camera in his hands.
Well, yeah, that's a question I wanted to ask you, because I love your dad's photography, but I also love your love of your dad's photography. But I know, I don't know what he meant, if he meant to capture photos as historic as they are. What do you see when you look at these photos?
So it's a really good question. So what I think he intended, and what visual culture scholarship tells us, is that there are as many readings of a photo as there are people viewing a photo, right? And the photographer does not fix the meaning of the photograph. That's up to us as the viewers. And so while I think he really wanted to convey this sense of continuity that had really given him, right, a very warm childhood. But in reality, when I see the photos, I see something completely different. When I teach my history and photography class at Long Island University, I ask students to think about photos as historical text. Look at a photo and ask, do you see continuity or change? And so I think for my father, he would look at these baseball photos. These are team shots. Photographs of the sidelines, photographs of the crowds, The Mount Vernon High School band played for a couple of games at Willie, and that happened to that developed because my dad and my uncle happened to be dating a couple of band members from Mount Vernon High School.
It's who you know.
It's
That's
who you
how
know,
things
right?
happen.
And they ended up marrying a couple of the girls from the band as well. But as I sort of discovered how extensive his collection of slides and negatives was after he died, I began to see that I instead of seeing continuity, I see really tremendous change and upheaval, and to some extent even loss when I look at these photos. First, on a global level and on a national level, I mean, this was the Cold War, right? We were only 5 years out from World War II, right? The Soviets had tested their first nuclear weapon in 1949. Joseph McCarthy went to Wheeling, West Virginia in early 1950 and said he had the names of 205 communists in the State Department. And the Korean War breaks out in 1950, right? That was the year that the Willie Rockies won the regular season and the playoffs. And so the Tobacco League was taking place in a geopolitical context. The pitcher and catcher, Bobby Robinson and Kelly Fish, would end up leaving soon after to serve in Korea. And so when I see the photos, I don't see static history, right? I see a lot of change. On a regional level and a local level, right? These photos really, I think, anticipate loss in some ways. This was a period when outmigration from the Appalachian region was really beginning, and people were beginning to leave Wilde and other small communities, going to Lexington, Cincinnati, Dayton, maybe Cleveland to find jobs. And so these were communities that were really on the cusp of transformative change. Yes, you can certainly read the photos as sort of suspended in time and place, but I tend to see them as much more sort of kinetic and really portending, transformative change in these rural regions.
Yeah, I look at them and it's as if they're slow motion. Like these people are in a purgatory between what they knew and what society is about to become. And it just captures these final moments of that South before it explodes outwards for people looking at jobs. And then there's maybe unwitting social commentary with your Aunt June looking like she's either going to hit a ball or a boy with that bat. Like she's got fire. And you look at Lonnie Durham, he's smoking a cigarette. He's holding this massive trophy. There's this kid just idolizing him. Kid in classic suspenders and trousers, looking up this tower of a man. And all of it seems slow motion to me. Like they know there's change. They don't know what's next, and they need to take advantage of this moment.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I do want to address those two photos. First of all, one of my favorite photos is the group photo of the players sitting on the bank with a barbed wire fence behind them. And while I think for my father that just really was emblematic of his childhood, surrounded by friends and family and the most dear people in his life. But I mean, that's a photo to me that really anticipates the transformation that rural areas were really about to face. Right, Kelly Fish, the catcher, is in that picture, and he would be in Korea probably the next year. And so it's a dear photo, but rather than seeing kind of suspended time, a place right in outside of time and place, I really see the historical change that's about to come and to really transform the Wilde community. Talking about a couple of the photos that you mentioned. The one of June Hiatt Stevens, that's my father's sister, in the baseball uniform, has really been sort of a signature image of the collection. I put together a family photo exhibit in 2002, a couple of years after COVID, and And that was the one that got, I think, the most attention. And unfortunately, my aunt just passed away just a few weeks ago, and that photo was part of her memorial service, and we made a memorial bookmark using that photo.
Was she ever able to go on and play competitive in anything?
So women did not play in the Tobacco League.
Well, and that's why I want her. I want her in the game.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. She did not play baseball. What I assume happened that one afternoon was that she decided to dress up in uniform, and she goes all the way down to the stirrup socks and the cleats, and really gets into striking sort of this league of their own pose. But that's the image that really has captured, I think, the imagination of a lot of outsiders. The Lonnie Durham smoking photo, I think, is fabulous as well. This was the Tobacco League, after all.
Yeah.
And a lot of players smoked. And Lonnie Durham was a really interesting story. He was about 5 years older than my father, and he had signed up, fibbed a bit on his age so he could join the Marines in World War II, and had seen some really ferocious fighting in the South Pacific. And so he joined the Tobacco League, as a World War II vet. And he would go on to he would get his barber's license on the GI Bill, and he would work as a barber in Mount Vernon and Berea for the next 3 decades, right?
Wow.
But it's just that photo, as you say, really captures the innocence of the period, right? I mean, this was baseball played for the love of the game. A lot of the little boys running around are sort of cousins of mine, so this was a family affair. Some of the players had sons of their own, and so I really think that this speaks to kind of the community reach of his collection of photos.
Yeah, I didn't want to assume, but now that you mention it, Lonnie looks like he's seen some things.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And this is a really interesting point. So photos include photos are always framed from a photographer's perspective. They're never just neutral purveyors of objective reality, right? They are framed. Photographers make decisions about what to include and to not include. So the photos contain some really quaint and charming images of the game of baseball and the community of Willie. But we also can look at photos and see absence as well. So what kind of things do these photos conceal or obscure? And I think that's an important point, right? The Korean War breaks out just 5 years after World War II. I mean, this was almost unthinkable during that interwar period. And what kind of emotional trauma was Lonnie Durham dealing with at this point, right? And then to think about Tobacco League players having to playing in the Tobacco League one summer and then being in Korea the next, right? Mm-hmm. Really it's really sobering to think about kind of what that generation was facing, and this was when the draft was going on. And so the photos are, really, you can ask of these photos, what do they conceal, what do they sort of obscure, and I think that there are lots of very interesting answers to those questions.
Yeah, there is as much in the void as there are in the people pictured. Incredible photos. One thing I wanted to ask you about before we go is your dad's sense of humor in the satire he wrote. Mm-hmm. And tell us about this. Was there a loss? His friend struck out? Is that what happened?
So the story is called The Good Old Days. And it's I have a copy of it here. It's about 6 double-space pages. So The Good Old Days was a Casey at the Bat. The Good Old Days was a Wildy version of Casey at the Bat. And the protagonist was his best friend, the Rockies catcher, Kelly Fish. And the story is about the crucial game at the end of the season, and Dad is really jabbing his best friend. Kelly hasn't gotten a hit the whole season. It's the bottom of the ninth with 3 people on, and Kelly, two outs, and Kelly is up to bat. Right, he's smoking 3 cigarettes, and the crowd is just watching his every move, and everything is on Kelly Fish, and so. My father wrote this very elaborate satire of this moment, in which he includes, a number of the colorful characters from.
Well, the whole town
Willie.
falls apart, right? I mean, just
Right.
because of his friend's
Right,
lackluster batting.
and spoiler alert, Kelly Fish strikes out. And by the end of it, my father says that Wildians are jumping into the creek and drowning themselves. They're jumping off the water towers over by the railroad track. One person jumps into the water tower and goes through the tube into the train engine. One man kills himself on second base, and so it's just a big community meltdown once Kelly Fish strikes out.
He could be writing about the modern Colorado Rockies too at the very same time, but
right.
That's local commentary that I just need to share therapeutically. But well, just brilliant, great story. Love the photos. I wish I could have met your father, and just this whole piece is incredible.
Yeah.
And you are where are you teaching?
I teach at Long Island University in out on Long Island. We have 2 campuses. One is in Brookville and one is in Brooklyn, and I teach at the one in the suburbs out on Long Island.